Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on wherever you're watching us from. Welcome to today's edition of Sedat HR Digest, brought to you by Sedat HR Consult. Sedat HR Consult is an HR firm with over 20 years of experience in providing HR solutions to organizations in the areas of compensations and benefits, talent acquisition, job evaluation, staff outsourcing, learning and development, performance management, and general HR advisory services. So you can contact Sedat on 0244 629245. I repeat the number again, 0244 629245. So if you're an organization, being a startup, or you've been in the system for a while, kindly contact Sedat Consult for your HR solutions. So today we have a very interesting topic to discuss. And then we also have one of the finest HR professionals in Ghana who will be our guest for today. So today's topic for discussion is effective succession planning. Usually we hear in organizations that people leave and they find it difficult to find a replacement for them. So today we'll delve into details and understand what goes into succession planning. Okay, so I will introduce our guest speaker, but before I do that, I want to hear from our viewers. So please kindly go to the chat box, mention your name, and tell us where you are watching us from. Then I will read it aloud so that your presence will be felt. Okay, so our guest speaker for today is Mr. Abubakar Kwame Esuman. So Mr. Abubakar is an astute HR professional with over 80 years of experience in the HR space, and he brings on board a lot of expertise in performance management, succession planning, learning and development, workforce planning, strategy development, policy development, and many more. So currently, Mr. Suman is the Director of Human Resource and Administration at VACO, where he drives the strategic HR initiatives fostering organizational growth and efficiency. Proud to taking up that role, he worked as the group head of HR and administration at the Bank of Africa. Mr. Suman holds an MBA in employee relations from the University of Leicester, UK, and a BEd in psychology from the University of Cape Coast. He has a lot of certification to his credentials, and also a member of the Association of Coaching Professionals in Ghana. So viewers, I believe hearing the profile of our guest speaker, we are all eager to hear from him. So Mr. Kwame Abubakar. So we have Aisha Ali watching us live from Lashibi. Mr. Abubakar, welcome, and we are glad to have you on board.
Thank you very much, Eugene. My apologies. As you can see, I am here I'm doing this in my car. So if the background isn't looking so nice, the sun seems to be behind the car. So maybe my image might not come out so well. Please pardon me. It just so happened I had an emergency and so I had to leave the house, and I'm not home yet. So, but hopefully you can hear me loud and clear. So even if the image is not too nice, we can still have our discussion. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
And good to hear that. And then we can hear you loud and clear. Okay, so we have Samuel Entry and Nana watching us from RCC Kumasi. Okay, so Mr. Abubakar, with your permission, can we start?
Let's proceed.
Okay, great. So I'm sure a lot of people will be asking this question. So my first question will be, what is succession planning?
Okay, of course. We must have a working definition for the subject matter. But before I give the book definition for what succession planning is, there's a quote I love so much. A quote by Liz Weber, an astute expert in strategic management. And she says that never put your business in the hands of one person or a select few. People leave, people die, people forget. Let me repeat. Never put your business in the hands of one person or a select few. People leave, people die, people forget. This basically underpins the subject matter we are about to discuss, which is succession planning. Basically, all Liz is saying is that make sure that you plan for the future, you plan for tomorrow. The fact that human beings have expiry date on them, whether they temporarily leave or they leave permanently, or even in some regards they will forget, and so go with the organization will lose that memory of whatever knowledge they possess. So it is that reason that the subject matter we are discussing today is very important. In defining what succession planning is, I like the definition of CIPD. It is very simple, straight to the point, and easy to understand. They define succession planning as the process of identifying and developing potential future leaders and senior managers, as well as individuals to fill business critical roles. And that the aim is to be able to fill key roles effectively if a current role holder or post holder leaves the organization. So basically, there are two processes, the identification and the development. So it's not just enough to just identify your successors or the people you deem to be successors. But after you've gone through the process to identify them, there's a need for you to develop them, because once by the time you identify them, they may not be ready to fill the roles. And in fact, this process is futuristic. Succession planning, you are planning for the future. It is not identifying people who can fill the role today. So once you identify them, there is a need for you to develop them. So it's akin to, most times, because a lot of us understand football or sports, it's always good to give an analogy using sports. So when you talk about succession planning, basically we bring it to football. And in football you have your reserve players, the bench. So just make sure that the players on your bench are as good as those on the field, so that if somebody is unable to play on the field and you are moving the person out and replacing with a bench player or a substitute player, that bench player is able to perform as best as the player who was already on the field. So it is how well, or what is the strength of your bench, basically. So in an organization, for every key role or senior management position, you must have a bench that is equally as good as those who are already in the current position. Let me just add that we have to distinguish between succession planning and emergency replacement planning. Succession planning is for the future. If you wake up one morning and you hear that, oh, the director of finance is not well, so cannot come to work for the next month or so, it is not succession planning you need to take care of that. So that will be, you need somebody, a backup, somebody to replace the finance director within that short time. So it's an emergency situation. The two are not the same. So of course, your emergency replacement plan can feed into your succession plan. That is fine, but the two are not the same. So we should be careful. We are not looking at succession plan as if it is emergency replacement planning. I hope I have given us a good definition, working definition for our discussion today. Eugene.
Yes, I believe so. The definition is very clear. And I think various business owners and business leaders are also listening to us, and they are picking this kind of information. Then I'm sure in the near future, they will start planning and getting reserves, people who can pick up such roles when those people leave. Okay, thank you. So my next question will be, what is the role of HR and also managers in succession planning?
Okay, so the human resource departments in every organization are there to facilitate processes. So in most of the functions that HR plays, basically HR's job is to put in place the framework. So in this regard, for example, there must be policy. So what is the company's succession policy, for example? What are the procedures if in terms of identifying the people, developing the people, what procedures are there to follow? That is HR's job. In terms of budgetary considerations, because sometimes you need tools even for the identification. Also in the development, you may have to expand with some investment. You have to invest in tools and processes. So that will be the job of HR. Another role HR plays in this is the engagement process. HR will have to engage business leaders in the organization, as well as even executive management, in ensuring that there is buy-in. HR will have to make sure everybody is on the same page when it comes to the succession management of the organization. Then there's also the issue of communication across the length and breadth of the organization. Everybody has to understand what exactly the succession planning of the organization is about. Sometimes you have to demystify some myths surrounding succession planning. There are some people who may not be happy. You select some people are part of the program, some people are not part of the program. I remember in one of my former organizations, when we were we put in place a talent management program, and those who were not part of the program gave it a name that wasn't so palatable. So those who were part of the program kind of were not too comfortable to be in the program. They were calling the program Talented Kids. So they will meet you and ask you, hey, are you part of the Talented Kids? So it's important that HR does the communication well, so that whatever myths surrounds the succession plan or the talent management program is demystified, and people understand why we're doing that. There are clear guidelines as to the criteria for selection of the pool, so that if someone is not part of it, they don't think that there is a certain cabal, there's a certain special group, call it family and friends, program, because once you do that, the program loses credibility, and if you're not careful, it will die a stillbirth. Or yes, so basically, HR when it comes to succession planning in organization.
Okay, so that's the role of HR. And then can we know the role of managers? Let me use senior managers, their part in succession plan. What part do they play in creating a succession plan for the organization?
Okay, so basically, what we need to understand is that HR works with business leaders or managers. Let's call them managers. Okay, so HR on its own cannot, for example, go to production or operations and go and identify people. You work with the managers. So even in the identification, you have to, once you set out what the criteria is, it takes the managers to use the criteria to identify the people. HR only facilitates. So it is the managers' job to identify the people. It is their job, even in the development, you may fall on them to develop them when it comes to on the job training or coaching, when it comes to assigning projects. The managers are the ones who work with you on that. Even on the engagement, if the managers take ownership of this activity, it makes it easier for people to understand, for people to own the process. So basically, the managers are partners, HR's partners in getting a successful succession plan. Eugene.
Hello?
Eugene, can you hear me?
Mr. Suman, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Yes, I
can you hear me? Okay, right.
Yes, I can hear you too. All right, thanks. Okay, thanks so much for the answer. So my next question will be, so what are some of the benefits that organizations stand to get when they have a succession plan?
Right. So there are a lot of benefits, really. In fact, an organization is a going concern. So we must always be in readiness for whatever happens. We must prepare to make sure that there is business continuity. So the first advantage or benefit of succession plan to an organization is business continuity. It ensures business continuity. Imagine you lose your director of finance or any of your directors, and you don't have anybody to step in and take charge of that function. The organization will have issues because you have made your plans, you have your customers, you have your suppliers. Any gap in any of these processes can be very detrimental to the organization. So once you have a succession plan in place, you are sure that whatever happens, the organization's existence is ensured because you have competent people to step in whenever you lose any of your key managers or persons in the critical roles. So business continuity is one. Number two is it also mitigates against risk associated with talent flight. These days in a lot of industries, talent is scarce, and there's also war on talent. You train your people, and another organization will just come and whisk them away. So you have to plan. The mere fact that you train someone and the person might leave, it's not good reason not to train them. Because if we think, I think I've forgotten who said this, but there's a quote that if you think training is expensive, try ignorance. So you have a duty to train your employees, and then you also have to plan that those you have trained, either some will leave by resigning, some may find themselves retiring, and because we are humans, we can also avoid touch wood, you may also lose some through death or whatever reason, or even sometimes sickness and what have you. So you have to plan for all these eventualities, and that is where so it's a risk. If you are not planning for such eventualities, then you stand that's risk. There is also another benefit is that talent succession planning helps you to identify and engage your talent. Sorry, are you having issues hearing me?
I think it keeps breaking, but it's okay now.
My apologies. I'm sure where I am, if I was in the comfort of my home, at least I could assure the um, the network stability. But my apologies. But
Yeah,
let's yeah.
I think
Okay.
it's better now. It's
So
better. It's better.
yes. So another yes, as I was saying, identification and engagement of your highly talented individuals is also a key benefit that we gain from succession planning. You can't, if you don't know the talent you have, you can't engage them, you can't develop them, then they might feel left out. You know, one problem or one challenge with having talent is that they are not people you can ignore. Every talent will want to be engaged. They want to feel that they are part of the action. So if you've not identified them, they can get bored very easily. And sometimes when they get bored, they can start even creating problems for you in the organization. So you want to make sure that you always keep them engaged. So the succession planning is what will help you to identify them in order to even engage them. And then also, of course, it helps to promote employee development. Once you have a plan, what it means is that you identify them, you roll out developmental programs for them. So it helps you to develop the employees you have in the organization. And then also it helps you to establish a talent pool. You know that you have a certain pool that if you need finance people, you can go in there. If you need HR people, if you need production people, you have a pool of talent you can always fall on. These for me are the benefits an organization stands to derive from having a succession planning program.
Okay, thank you. So now we know that if we identify some people as talent in our organization, we should have a plan for them so that they can also stay. So before I ask my next question, I think we have Zakari Salamat watching us from Kumasi. She says, "Good to see you, Mr. Abubakar." And we have Mamiesi also watching from Sotium, and Abigail from Pon also watching us from Kumasi. So viewers, if you have any question, kindly drop it in the chat box. I will, at the appropriate time, I'll read it to Mr. Suman to address them for you. Okay, so Mr. Suman, my next question is on business strategy. So how do we align succession planning, or how do we integrate succession planning into our business strategies?
Okay, so to answer this question, so there are four key. Okay, so the succession planning process has four key parts, right? First one is a question you ask, and the question is what's needed for future success. So as an organization, what you need for future success. So here we are talking about the planning stage. So when you are planning your succession planning strategy, you need to first identify what the future of your business will look like, so that you know how success will also look like. Then once you've done that, you ask yourself, so what talent would we need for that future state? So then you now assess the talent you have now, which will show you what gaps you have, and then now you develop the talents to address the gap. So at the stage where you are asking yourself what's needed for future success, that is where your business strategy aligns with your succession plan. So it's the first thing. Business strategy is the first thing you need to look at when you are talking about succession planning. I remember earlier when I mentioned that succession planning is for the future, it's not for the now. So if you do not align your business strategy to the succession plan, then obviously you will train people, you will develop them, only for you to find out 5, 10 years, 15, 20 years from now that they are not fit for purpose. So at this stage, you need to know what direction is your industry headed. So for example, if you are in the banking sector, if you are in the manufacturing sector, what direction is the industry going? Once you're able to answer that question, so then you ask yourself, what are the positions that will be mission critical to the success of your organization's future? And for example, now, if with AI and machine learning and what have you, any succession planning you are looking at should factor some of these things, these elements in terms of the development, so that you don't get to 10 years from now and realize that the people you have trained as directors for your company are falling short in certain skills that they must have. So these are critical questions that you need to ask yourself. Again, you have to ask what competencies would they need to be successful in the future we are looking at. So this is how succession plan fits into strategy, and that's something that we need to address. Eugene, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Thanks so much for the answer. And I believe we've all taken note of the 4 key parts of succession planning. It's very important. So my next question will be on so now we know the benefits, and then we know everything with benefit has its other sides. So what are some of the common challenges that comes with succession planning?
Okay, of course. The challenges are many, but I'll talk about just about 5 of them. First and foremost is executive management's lack of commitment to the plan. So yes, you put the plan in place, but sometimes if you don't carry executive management along, or if you're not on the same page, sometimes they may want to sidestep the plan and act outside the plan. So if maybe your plan, you're supposed to develop somebody, the person needs about 5 years to be developed. 2 years down the line, maybe the current role holder hasn't left yet, but executive management wants to, shuffle things a bit. So they are eager to move the substantive and bring in the one who is not per the plan you have, the one who is not ready. If that happens, you may have challenges along the line, the plan may not work as you want it to be, and it may be seen as if the succession planning hasn't worked, but it's just because maybe the successor is not ready to step in, and what it means is that you have rushed the person into the role. So that is one challenge sometimes you are likely to face. There is also the issue of including persons in the plan who are not motivated, who are not interested, or who lack the capacity. And here you may need to have a robust tool for identifying members of the talent pool. If you don't have that, sometimes you can have even managers or senior management team who may think that, oh, the way I work with this person, or the way of this person contributes, we think he should be part of the pool. If you have situations like that, what it means is that you may have people who you've not assessed holistically. So, because it is not only knowledge of the role that's important, but motivation and other soft skills are also necessary. And so if you are not careful and you get people into the program who have not been thoroughly assessed and who tick all the boxes, and they might get into the program and you'll find out later that they are not really fit to be in there. Another challenge will be the issue of high turnover. If you have high staff turnover in the organization, what will happen is that you will place people in the program. Before they ripe, they leave. So you are always having to be bringing new people into the program, and they never get fully baked, but the main problem here is that you have a high staff turnover, and so they are leaving before they get fully baked. The next one I will talk about is the issue of the training that you are putting, or the developmental programs or interventions you are putting the people through. You have to make sure that it is holistic. It's not just instructor-led training. Sometimes you tend to only use that method, so people go for training, they come back, but training only forms just a fraction of the learning that you need members of this pool to get. So you have to make sure you have a very robust developmental program in place. And last but not least is to make sure that people who are part of the program are not disillusioned at some point. Because they are part of the program, sometimes they feel that you owe them promotion because you've identified them as your talent. And of course, if they are talent, then you have to reward them. They should feel that they are growing in the organization. So sometimes you can have people be disillusioned, or people who are part of the program be disillusioned because they feel you are not giving them what they need. So these are some of the challenges that comes along with succession planning. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Suman. Okay, viewers, if you just joined today's session of HR Digest, the topic for discussion is effective succession planning, and our guest speaker is Mr. Abubakar Kwame Asuman. So we have Anita watching us from Ashoban Estates and also Eje Damte watching us from Sunyani. Welcome. So before I take questions from the viewers, I would like us to go on a short break. See you soon. Okay, viewers, we are back. And then if you are watching us, kindly go to the chat box. We want to hear from you. So just type your name and let us know where you are watching us from. Then we will acknowledge your presence. Also, if you have questions that you need answers to, kindly drop it in the chat box and Mr. Asuman will answer them for us. So, and there's an upcoming training. Please, I'm sure details will be dropped in the chat box. So the training is using analytics to measure HR's contribution. You know, in this current world, you should be able to tell a story around data. We don't just present data in its raw stage. Data should be manipulated so that stories can be told about the data to make other business decisions. So kindly go to the Sadat website, register, and enjoy this training. I believe after this training, your life will never be the same. Okay, so whilst we are waiting for Mr. Asuman to be back, let me also welcome Abdul Basir Ibrahim watching us from WA. We also have Tengan Dasa Felix also watching us from Our Lady of Grace SHS in Kumasi Mamponti. Please keep your comments coming, keep your questions coming. That's the reason why we are here today. Every questions, each and every question that you have will be answered. Okay. Welcome back, Mr. Suman. Okay, so we are having some technical challenges, and I believe Mr. Suman will join us very soon. I hope we've all been blessed with the information so far. So now we understand what succession planning is, and also the benefits and some of the common challenges that organizations go through in implementing succession plans. So as business leaders, as employees, we should also note that this is very important in our organizations. Once we identify people as talent, we should have plans for them. If not, we stand to lose a lot of people, and we keep on training and training and training. And then I think it defeats the purpose of the whole plan. So let's take note of that. Hello, Mr. Suman, can you hear me?
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Suman.
All right. I have to change using my phone because my laptop's battery just died.
Oh, okay, okay.
But the line is a bit faint. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, hello?
Hello, welcome back.
Okay.
Okay, so we have some questions from our viewers, but before I take it, I would like to ask this question. So how do we identify potential successes, and how do we develop them to be able to pick up future roles?
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Right. I I wish I could show this, but because my laptop just went off, I can't share this. But so in the identification of potential successes, you have to have a tool you use. Usually you have to assess the talent you have, and you use what we call the high potential, high performance. You can have persons who are performing very well now, who may not have the potential for the future. So you can have persons who have yes, they are now competent, they are working very well now, but they may have peaked. So for such people, if you put them in your talent pool 3, 5, 10 years from now, you realize that they are not fit for purpose. So you have to use a good tool that help you identify persons who are high performers, and also persons who have high potential. So there is this Mackenzie's 9 points grade that is used in search. Of course, there are other tools, but the one I have used that works for me is similar to the Mackenzie's, and this one it looks at people's potential as against their current performance. So depending on where on the grade you find them, and usually so you have the performance on the y-axis, whilst the potential is on the x-axis. So it's like a grid, and people who are usually selected for a talent pool, or for the talent pool, are those who are in the top 4 quadrants of these two. So people who are high performers, So you can have a high performer with a high potential. You can have somebody with a high performer with a medium potential. You can have a high potential medium performer. So as long as the person does not have a low potential, okay. So here you are looking at people with either medium performance, high potential, or even if their performance is not too good now, but they have high potential. And as I said, you need certain tools for you to be able to identify them. And once you've been able to identify them, then now you put them in a development program that seeks to develop them. And here there are so many ways by which you can and develop them. One of them being training, like a normal training, what we call the instructor-led training. You can also put them or develop a certain training on the job for them. Of course, using the coaching approach. What this approach does is that you help the person to unearth the talent in them. You know, the coaching principle is that the person has it in them, and you are only asking the right questions to bring whatever they have out. So you are not treating the person as if they don't know and you are the one teaching them. So the coaching approach is always the best way to use when you are developing them on the job. You can also put them in projects, you know, high demanding projects that will test their abilities and capabilities. So, and again, these are projects that require maybe multidisciplinary field. So you need a finance person in there, you need a production person in there, you need a communication person in there, you need an HR person in there. So you put all of them together and see how they are able to work together to bring out the best in them. You also, for persons in set group, sometimes you take them for certain high powered meetings or programs where you don't just take them there just to sit there. Of course, sitting there and observing what is happening around them in such meetings is a good platform for them to learn. But also, you have to task them to contribute, because once you are helping them to contribute or you are putting them on the spot, then it helps them to delve into themselves and give up their best. You also sometimes those in the program, you assign them certain research topics so that they can, if let's say organization has some challenges they are facing, you can ask members of this group to carry out some research in such areas and come up with solutions and recommendations for management's consideration. So these are some ways by which you develop persons in this program. And we should remember that we are not only developing them in the technical area. Of course, it is always good to have people having good knowledge in the technical area. But the most important thing we need to remember is the leadership part. Remember, succession planning, you are looking for people to fill strategic roles, senior management roles, as well as critical roles. So you train them in leadership as well. And leadership here, what we are looking at is people who are able to lead a team. Sometimes your technical competence alone is not enough. Your ability to be able to lead a team is as important, or even sometimes more important, than your technical ability. So, in the nutshell, these are how you identify persons for a talent management program and also develop them. Eugene.
Okay. Thanks so much for this answer. This is very detailed. And I think it's very important for us to know that we don't have to focus just on the technical skills, but also once this talent will be taking up future leadership roles, the leadership skills is also very important. Okay, so we have a question from Samuel Entry. So do we do succession planning just to replace people in position, or we do it to meet organizational goals?
Okay, so it's both. You see, so ultimately you want to meet organizational goals, and one of the key organizational goals is to be able to meet your financial goals. If you are, of course, you are set as an organization, you are set up to meet your shareholder, or the shareholders have set up certain goals for you. So your being in business, even if you are a not-for-profit organization, you are there to meet certain goals. So that is key, and you need people to deliver those goals. So if those people are not there, if they leave and you cannot replace them, then ultimately you cannot meet the business goals. So succession planning is the tool that you use to make sure that you always have a pipeline of persons to fill key or strategic roles in the organization to enable you to meet your business goals. I hope I've answered the question.
Yes, I think you've answered the question, Samuel Entry. I hope this answer is okay for you. So we have another question from Ruby Dixon. She says, if an organization wants to start succession planning now, where must they start from, or how should they go about it?
Okay, so I think in one of my earlier responses to one of your questions, I did indicate that when you are that there are 4 key processes you go through when you are putting together a succession plan. And the first one is the planning stage, where you want to align the succession plan to the business goals of the organization. So basically, you ask the question, where do we want our company to be in future? So once you are able to answer that question, then you need to ask yourself, okay, so if we want to be at point X in 5 or 10 years time, do we have the manpower or the talent we need to get there? To be able to do that, you have to now assess the current talent you have. So you carry out an assessment of the talent you have, based on which you will know whatever gaps you have. So whatever gaps you have now, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so based on the gaps you have, now you can put in place the programs to bridge the gap by identifying people and then developing them to be able to meet those gaps you have.
Thank you. So I'll take this question from Mamiesi. So what metrics or key performance indicators do you use to measure the effectiveness of succession planning?
Sorry, the question again?
So Mamiesi is asking, what key metrics or KPIs do we use to measure the effectiveness of succession planning?
Oh well, the KPIs is what you set at the end of the day. What goals do you set for yourself to achieve for your succession plan? So, for example, if you say that maybe by in 3 years' time we must have persons who are ready to fill in the roles for each of the key positions we have, or senior management roles. We must have either 1 or 2 people who are ready to step in, and you break that down to every year. This is what we intend to do. So then the KPIs you set will be based on whatever goals you've set for yourself. So at the end of the day, what is it you want to achieve? What key results do you want to see at the end of a certain period of time? So then you build that into the plan so that you can monitor, you can evaluate to know whether you are making progress, what improvements you need to make to the plan, and what have you. So there is no one size fits all KPIs that you put in place, but it is what goals you want to achieve. So in designing your succession plan, you have to set these goals for yourself, and then measure yourself based on these goals, and that's how you can assess those KPIs. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take this last question, then I think you'll call it an end. So must you inform potential successor your plan for him or her in future, since there may be tendency to lose such person, usually in a situation where there's a rate of staff turnover?
Okay, so this is the to tell or not to tell question. It's a key issue when it comes to succession planning. There are pros and cons, whether you want to tell or you don't want to tell. Maybe there are some that you may have to tell. There are some that you may not have to tell. It all depends on the organizational culture. So, for example, I can give you one advantage of telling. Imagine somebody is part of your succession plan. The person doesn't know. So when you have identified the person and you have been training or developing the person, but the person feels that, oh, it's part of the normal development that the organization owes them. So they don't know that they are a key part of the organization's strategy. And then the person gets an offer. Now the person has taken the offer, informs you, and then you tell the person, oh, we were considering you for this key position. So the person only found out when they decided that they want to leave. So here, you would have done a big disservice to the organization and to the person. Meanwhile, there are also disadvantages for telling. Sometimes when you tell persons that they are part of a certain program, you are developing them to occupy certain key positions. If you are not careful and if you don't handle the process well, they end up becoming over ambitious. They end up sabotaging the one that they know they have to replace, or they end up being disillusioned when the substantive person is nowhere near their retirement age. And so now they are thinking, I am ready to fill in this role. This person is not going anywhere. So why am I here? and they begin to have attitudinal issues. So there are pros and cons, as I said. A lot will depend on the culture of the organization. What is organizational culture like? Is it an organization that is open to transparency, that you know, when you make things known to people, it will not create other issues, you know. So I will not fine. I have my own bias, and my bias is that you have to tell, but largely it depends on the organization. You have to make sure the grounds are fertile for telling, else you will tell and it will not go well for the organization. And if you are not careful, the program you are putting in place to solve a strategic problem may end up becoming what creates more problems for the organization. So that's my take on to tell or not to tell.
Okay. Thanks so much, Mr. Suman, for this answer. I think we'll end it here. So, Mr. Suman, your final word for us, then we wrap up.
So my final word is a quote. I like quotes. I always say that quotes are pregnant with a lot of wisdom. So something that you need a whole page to say, one sentence can summarize it for you. And there is one such quote by John Maxwell, and I love John Maxwell to bits. He says that a leader's lasting value is measured by succession. A leader's lasting value is measured by succession. So in everything we do as leaders, what you live, how you live the role you occupied for God knows how long, is how you'll be measured, or how your legacy will be measured. As a leader, if you leave the scene and the position you held or the role you handled disintegrates, that means you did not leave a good legacy, and you did not think through your succession. But we should remember that our succession form parts of our legacy. So every organization must take succession planning as a strategic issue. You can have the best talents handling your key roles in an organization. If they leave the scene and those who succeed them don't top them, as in they are not performing even better than them, but rather they are taking the organization back, then that is a big existential challenge for the organization. So that will be my parting comment, that succession planning is a strategic issue for organization and must be taken as such. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Mr. Suman. This session has been a good one, and then I hope our audience who have taken their nuggets from this whole session. So as business owners, we shouldn't leave our organization to selected few. We should always have backups. And as also business leaders, whenever we identify talent, we should have plans for them so that we keep them, we groom them to pick up future critical roles. And as employees, we should also play our parts. We should support this good cause. Thanks so much for today. And viewers, we say a very big thank you for dedicating your Sunday for this session. So we'll see you next week, the same time. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.